Hi folks, Florida Man here. Today, we conclude the very fun and educational Basics of Turkey series with Basics of Turkey, Endgame. It's been a wild and always entertaining ride, and Turkey is and will remain one of my favorite countries to talk about, but now we are sadly at the end of this process. The bright side is that this will free us up to move on to discussing how to play as England. I'm going to do what I typically do with these endgame videos and look at a bunch of games that Turkey soloed with the aim of trying to reconstruct why and how the Turkish player won those games. We'll start with some basic stuff. In every Turkish solo, Turkey has his own home centers, Greece and Bulgaria, which you would expect because those centers are all basically next to Turkey. In 99% of Turkish solos, Turkey had at least one Austrian center. In 98%, Turkey had Romania. Same for Serbia. These centers are all in Turkey's immediate neighborhood, so it is the low-hanging fruit. In 86%, Turkey had all the Austrian centers, which is frankly lower than I would expect for a Turkey who's soloing. Turkey will almost never get all of the Russian centers, but the Austrian centers should all basically fall into your lap, if you're in a strong enough position to move toward the solo. You should also already have at least one or two Austrian centers, because you either acquired them in the early game, or after defeating Russia and stabbing your initial ally. Speaking of Russia, in 99% of Turkish solos, Turkey had at least one Russian center, so that number is technically exactly the same as with Austria. However, there are some important distinctions. In 99% of those games, Turkey had Sevastopol, the one Russian center Turkey is almost guaranteed to capture with a concerted effort. The odds of having any of the rest of the centers are noticeably lower than the odds of having all the Austrian centers. Turkey gets all of Austria, again 86% of the time. But in only 81% of games did Turkey have Moscow. In 83%, Turkey had Warsaw. And in a relatively minor 30% of solos, Turkey captured St. Petersburg. That's obviously a drastic drop-off, and the reason why is that St. Petersburg is on the other side of the stalemate line. So if a Western power captures it before Turkey manages to race up there, Turkey has almost no chance of ever acquiring it. Something we see in the games where Turkey did reach St. Petersburg is that typically England was either already defeated or had focused on other areas of the map and not secured that northeast corner. So if England is besieged, maybe make the attempt to reach St. Petersburg, otherwise I would expect you'd usually fail. It's a negligent England that lets Turkey get into St. Petersburg and stay there. Speaking of negligent English players, in 14% of Turkish solos, Turkey had some of Scandinavia. What I said about St. Petersburg requiring England to be negligent for Turkey to acquire it applies double to Scandinavia. In the games when Turkey somehow acquires those centers, it requires a really feeble English effort to stop Turkey, or more often a dead or near-dead England. Going to a more likely stalemate line center for Turkey to acquire, Turkey has Tunis in 83% of Turkish solos, which frankly was fewer than I expected, although still an overwhelming supermajority. Turkey pretty consistently takes Italy out, which should normally come with capturing Tunis. But I looked at the stats for taking Italy, and I saw that although Turkey had at least one Italian center in 97% of Turkish solos, Turkey had all the Italian centers in 82% of solos, so Turkey taking Italy out of his home centers completely roughly corresponds to Turkey getting Tunis in terms of probability. When someone keeps Turkey out of the critical Tunis center, it's almost always either Italy or France. I think the best solutions to this issue are either going after Italy as early as possible, before France has a chance to move into the Mediterranean, or trying to get Italy to move west early on and go after France, which should ensure France can't stop you and hopefully will mean Italy's back is open when you're ready to take the fight to him. Speaking of France, Turkey has Marseille in 57% of solos, which means it's another of these stalemate line centers that tends to go to Turkey when Turkey wins. On the other hand, Turkey has Brest in only 14% of Turkish solos and Paris in only 7%. Brest is about as accessible for Turkey as Scandinavia, which means that acquiring it is usually an absolutely absurd goal for Turkey geographically. The fact that Turkey occasionally does get that center, which is well over the stalemate line, is generally a testament to Turkey's incredible naval strength. More on this later. Related to this, Turkey had at least one Iberian center in 44% of games, but that's less than we would expect. It suggests Marseille is frequently the limit of how far Turkey can get with its fleets. Corroborating that is the fact that Turkey has an English home center in only 4% of Turkish solos, the whole island in only 1%. So proximity is always important, and England is so far out of Turkey's reach that even a heavily naval Turkey has hardly a prayer of reaching him. It's of course a very nice idea to get behind the English naval lines, but the Royal Navy is formidable, and these numbers are showing you are not likely to do it. I think the games in which this actually happens are games in which you got some help from somebody, either someone knocked England over and you then took what they had, or you launched a raider behind English lines, or you had an ally who worked with you to take England down, even though you were clearly growing out of control by that point. None of those things are really likely to happen, so I think the way you want to address England is you want to try to keep England on your side, or you need Germany to build fleets and go after him. This has the additional plus that it will make Germany vulnerable to a land-based attack when you want to go after him later if he focuses too much on fleets. Related to the English issue, Turkey only gets Belgium or Holland a combined 4% of the time, which I think is again because of that issue of distance. France or England will usually block you out of those centers even if you captured all of Germany, and there's almost no way you'll be able to get fleets around to help you get into those centers, given how difficult it is for Turkey to get any English center. Turkey had at least one German center in 55% of solos. Turkey had all of the German centers in 8%, which is a lot less often than I would expect. Getting more specific though, we see Turkey had Munich in 51% of solos, which shows that particular center is frequently a very important part of the Turkish solo math. I think there are a number of reasons why that center is a critical piece of the Turkish solo. The next most likely German center for Turkey to obtain, Berlin, is only acquired 27% of the time when Turkey wins. So better odds than Brest or Paris, but slightly worse than St. Petersburg. The statistical results with regard to Marseille, Iberia, and Germany are interesting to me because I would say there's an either-or dynamic to them. That is, when Turkey solos, Turkey usually wins with either the southern centers of Marseille and or Iberia, or with German centers, plus maybe St. Petersburg. In short, you usually end up pursuing either a land-based or naval strategy as Turkey. A naval strategy can take you to Marseille and Iberia, and a land-based strategy can take you to Germany and possibly St. Pete. A combination of the two is probably the best possible thing, but all things considered, I think a naval focus will be more successful more of the time when you've got to choose. I've said before that I think Turkey is a much more land-based power than most people play it, but the solo results here show Turkey is a little more likely to get Marseille than he is to get German centers, and Turkey is much more likely to acquire some of Iberia than to control St. Pete, because again, taking St. Pete is much more of a feat of poor play on the western side than it is a goal Turkey can consistently achieve. Ultimately, a land approach will always have its limits, because the only German center that you can guarantee with only armies is Munich. So the macro strategy level takeaway from what I'm seeing here is that Turkey is more of a naval power than I may have described it as being before. I didn't do the numbers on this, but I believe the average number of fleets for a soloing Turkey is about 6, which is certainly enough to suggest to me that at least some level of naval approach is the way to go about playing Turkey. I hope this series of videos has been helpful to you in figuring out how to bring the game home as Turkey. This last one was basically just tips about bringing home the win, but the truth is that Turkey has many more layers to it in terms of the subtleties of play. And I expect I'll be doing more videos on the geography of various powers in the future. Not to mention the Basics of England series, which is the only thing left in this multi-year Basics diplomacy strategy saga. If you liked this, you should probably already be subscribed to my YouTube channel, because realistically, most of the people watching this video and listening to it right now are probably my more hardcore subscribers or viewers. If you have thoughts on the ideas in this video, you should rewatch it a few times. Comment below with those thoughts, watch the series as a whole to get this video in its full context, and consider joining the Alligator Army, whose names are now on screen, my wise, disciplined, and committed patrons and translators. Until next time, Florida Man, out.